Coming up on today's show, I want to react to Bleacher Report's latest article depicting who are the best big three in the current NBA after all of the big NBA free agency moves are pretty much done with. Yeah, there's still some talent on the free agency market, but probably not as big as Paul George going to the 76ers. So we're going to break that down here on today's show. First things first, if you think the Boston Celtics have the best big three in the NBA, whoever you think that big three is, go on ahead and spam your shams in the comment section down below as many times as you possibly can to let everybody know Celtics fans run deep. Let's go ahead and start off with this list. This is the top 10 teams with the best big three. We're going to break down 10 through 6 and then 5 all the way down to the number 1 spot. Coming off hot here, the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, they now have a big three because they added DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan does make this team a lot better. You got De'Aaron Fox, you got Sabonis in there as well. They've kind of been a duo so far in Sacramento. Adding DeMar DeRozan, I think, really involves that backcourt, and I do think DeMar DeRozan's time in Chicago just kind of outplayed itself, so I'm hoping he can now step up and have not the main role that he was handed this year for the Bulls once Zach LaVine went down, but a big enough role to allow De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis to have a little bit of a lighter workload and hopefully make it into the playoffs this year. Coming in at number 9, which was really surprising to me to have number 9, the New York Knicks, after a huge trade that they made to get Mikal Bridges to come to New York. Well, now their big three includes Bridges, Brunson, and Bleacher Report had Julius Randle. Randle, who didn't really play for the Knicks last year because of an injury. I don't know if I put Randle here. I think it's kind of a slight to OG Anunoby, not gonna lie. Of course, you're gonna have a couple of guys in the depth chart there. You got Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, but they're not what makes you the big three. Randle is the interesting component here, in my opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of Julius Randle for the New York Knicks here right now. I do believe that Julius Randle could probably have a better showcase elsewhere. But to have them in the big three, it does make sense, though. I understand you got to put Julius Randle down there. He has done good things for the New York Knicks here in the last couple of years, but I don't know if I would slight OG Anunoby like that. But no doubt they got better this offseason. No doubt that Bridges has now elevated the New York Knicks backcourt just slightly, adding next to Jalen Brunson as well. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do here for the Knicks this upcoming season. But who is your big three for the New York Knicks? Would you include Julius Randle to be in there? Do you think OG Anunoby got slighted? Would you put any other player in there? I don't know if I would go too deep into the depth chart there. It's probably Randle or OG, if we're being honest. But go ahead and comment that down below. Coming in at number 8, the Phoenix Suns in terms of big three. Obviously, you got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Of course, this was the first year that we got to see Bradley Beal here with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and honestly, it was a little bit underwhelming. It did not impress me the way that I thought it was. It sounds better on paper to have Booker, Beal, and Durant together, but when I saw them play, it was nothing flashy, especially in a very intense Western Conference. I didn't think Beal really pushed that needle for him. Devin Booker, he's a great player, but for some reason, he just can't seem to find him on a championship wave right now after they went through a couple of years in the NBA Finals. So, nonetheless, I understand it's ranked number 8. It's not the biggest big three, in my opinion, in the NBA. Coming in at number 7, the Cleveland Cavaliers, which they do kind of have that same situation as the Celtics do, where you could easily take out Evan Mobley and put Jarrett Allen. I wouldn't. I would keep Evan Mobley there, Donovan Mitchell, and Darius Garland. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell, who re-signed, he will stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers. There are a lot of rumors that he was going to get traded or he was going to be out of Cavaliers, but he is staying. But the one thing I noticed in the playoffs when they played against the Boston Celtics is that Donovan Mitchell really just kind of overshadows Darius Garland, in my opinion. And it's an underrated big three. I do like Evan Mobley down low a lot. Once again, he proved that in the playoffs against the Celtics, despite us winning in 5. And I do think Donovan Mitchell is a better ball player than Darius Garland, absolutely, but he does take away a lot of Garland's touches, whereas the Boston Celtics have a duo in Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum that really complement each other. I don't know if Garland and Mitchell have complemented each other as well as they could, because I saw a lot of things I love from Darius Garland that I don't get to see a lot in the regular season because I believe Donovan Mitchell overshines Darius, but that's sometimes what happens when you have the better player on the team. Number 6, the Memphis Grizzlies. When I tell you I have not thought of the Memphis Grizzlies in probably almost 2 years, I truly mean it. Why? Because there were a lot of injuries that plagued this team. I completely forgot Ja Morant is an NBA player. He just kind of fell off this last year after having an incredible first 2 years in the NBA. But Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., obviously former Defensive Player of the Year, and Desmond Bane. I like Desmond Bane, to be honest. I think he's kind of an underrated guard here in the NBA. That's just my opinion. And I do like him a lot with Ja Morant. I think they do flow well together. And Bane saw a lot of his field goal attempts actually go up because he had to handle a lot more on his plate because Ja Morant was suspended for the first 25 games. Then I think he tore his rotator cuff or his labrum or something like that in his shoulder, and he was out for the rest of the season. So now that you've got Bane, who's got a little bit of a bigger role now with the Grizzlies, adding back Ja Morant, it's going to be actually pretty exciting to see that backcourt mixed in with Jaren Jackson Jr. down low for the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm pretty excited for those three to start working again. I like the Grizzlies. I think they're really fun to watch. Same thing with Ja Morant. He's a really fast, scrappy guard. I really have enjoyed it, and I'm excited to have his talents back in the NBA. But other than Boston, let's focus on the Eastern Conference here just for a quick minute. Who has the best Eastern Conference big three? Let's forget about the West. We obviously know they have a lot of talent over there, but so does the East. The Boston Celtics have the best team, obviously. But which Eastern Conference team has the best big three other than Boston? All right, let's break down the top 5 big three in the NBA. Minnesota Timberwolves. I actually love this roster. Why? I have grown a newfound love for Anthony Edwards and the way that he plays. If you watch him right now for Team USA, he is right there with some of the greats. Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant's obviously not playing right now, but Anthony Edwards fits seamlessly in there. Rudy Gobert, also a former Defensive Player of the Year, and I love Cat. I love any big that can drain it from the three. I like the size. I like what he can do from a three-point line, and they are still playoff threats. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals this year, got blown out by the Mavericks. It is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you take Game 7 with the Denver Nuggets. So they are definitely playoff threats once again in the Western Conference. If we ever saw them, it would be in the Western. It would be in the NBA Finals next season, but you cannot rule them out after an impressive year that they had last season. The OKC Thunder. Believe it or not, they actually did make a trade ahead of free agency. Josh Giddey, he went to the Chicago Bulls. Alex Caruso, he came to OKC, but that doesn't really have anything to do here with their big three because you're going to put SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams together. Obviously, SGA really showcased his talents this last year, becoming one of the highest scorers in the NBA for the season. SGA, I'm very excited to see him. Chet and SGA really complement each other as well. Adding on Jalen Williams does make this a very lethal threat when it comes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 3 is the Milwaukee Bucks. And that's the thing, is that whenever you have a really great international player like Luka, Joker, or Giannis, they're going to be in the top conversations because they do make the league a lot better. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, and Chris Middleton, who is still working really well with Giannis here. When I saw this trade happen, when all that stuff was going on last offseason of where is Dame going to go, ended up with the Bucks, I was scared shitless. I was like, oh my God. This is now the top competition for the Boston Celtics. And you can never rule out Giannis. That's the thing. Chat Sports, we were having a conversation of who's the top 5 in the NBA, and Giannis obviously is in that conversation. He will be probably until he retires. But the way they added Dame didn't seem to work out for the Bucks. Not the way that everybody was scared to. Not the way the Boston Celtics were 13 games ahead of them when they were in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks obviously need a huge season after last year, going through 14 different head coaches or how many ever it was, really not having Dame take them over the edge like they thought it was. And then, of course, Giannis did get injured, which didn't help, but the Bucks need a big year, and I would lean on that big 3, but still, I'm not that terrified of Damian Lillard with the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe this year will be different. Coming in at number 2, the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, this is huge. This was the biggest move, in my opinion, in NBA free agency when you added Paul George to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Once again, Maxey is up there with Ja Morant in terms of my guard rankings. I love Tyrese Maxey. I love everything on both sides of the basketball with this guy. You got Paul George now included with Joel Embiid. You're putting him with an MVP. Paul George, while he wasn't recently injured, he does still have that injury towards the back of his bag, but I've yet to see these 3 play. So it's all up in the air. And that's what's crazy about ranking them number 2 and the best big 3 in the NBA is because you've never seen the 3 of them play together. It's all speculation. But it makes sense because when you look at that big 3, you got, boom, 1, 3, and 5 covered on your floor. That's huge. And then you can fill in with your 2s and 4s with whatever moves they made in free agency. I know they added a lot of players. I can't remember them right now. But the Sixers starting 5 to have Tyrese Maxey at year 1, Paul George at year 3, and Joel Embiid at year 5, that's actually very intimidating. On paper. Well, so was Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But nothing really came out of that in terms of playoff or terms of any kind of threat to the Boston Celtics. So we have yet to see what the 76ers can do on the court. And surprise, surprise, the Boston Celtics were ranked number 1 in the NBA's best big 3. And what's even funnier about this to me is that this is what Bleacher Report literally said. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday, or Derrick White. They had to add one more. This is now the best big 4. There are so many players you can revolve in this last spot. You've got your duo, just like Smitty said. You got Tatum, you got Brown, you got the best duo in the NBA. Argue with me, I don't care. That's the best duo in the NBA. And then at number 3, you could add Porzingis too when he's healthy. You could put Derrick White there. You could put Jrue Holiday there. There's different big 3s depending on who's on the court at the same time that can make them so powerful and so intimidating to everybody else in the NBA. And then what's even better is that the Celtics still had their top 7 coming back next year. They've got their starting 5, pending 2 months with Kristaps Porzingis' rehab. They got Al Horford coming off the bench. They got Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and anybody else that Brad Stevens wants to keep around for the long haul. The Celtics are literally running it back. And I cannot thank Brad Stevens enough for creating the most perfect roster. It truly is. They complement each other in so many ways that you can make several different big 3 variations for this Celtics starting 5, and they're still dominant in the Eastern Conference. So my question out to you guys, who should be in the big 3 for Boston? Let me know who your big 3 are in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. It's a fun little conversation to have in the offseason as we are now heading into the 2024 regular season in just a few months. So go on ahead, comment that down below, and as always, go on ahead and subscribe.